We all know about corporate crime. The subject has been quite adequately covered by others, so I see no need to go into detail here. But whether we are talking about environmental misconduct, animal cruelty, tax evasion, union busting, slave labor in third world countries, or just manufacturing harmful products and promoting them with disingenuous advertising campaigns, the consequences of unregulated corporate expansion have been well documented. The question I'm interested in is, what is our responsibility as conscientious consumers who have ethical objections to this kind of behavior? The lie, the unforgivable deception that has been perpetuated by some activist groups and corporations alike, is that we somehow vote for corporations with our consumer dollar. According to this view, purchasing a product or procuring a service is tantamount to a tacit endorsement of the policies and practices of a corporation in question. According to this view, by changing the way we shop, we can change the way big business does business. It's an attractive concept because it's simple to understand and it's undemanding. We don't have to make any substantive sacrifices or do any real work. We just have to pay the extra dollar for the organic or the locally grown or the green product. This lie is predicated on the idea of supply and demand. We are told that the consumer is ultimately responsible because they have a demand for a product or a service. All the corporation does is create a supply to meet that demand. Maybe I just have a suspicious mind, but I have to wonder, who really gains from this idea? Does the way we spend money really change the way business does business, or is this merely a distraction to keep us from getting involved in activities that might create real change? I'm sure that once upon a time this myth of supply and demand was true, but presently we inhabit a mass media climate in which advertising is a multi-billion-dollar industry. The market is being flooded with more products and services than anybody could possibly keep track of. People simply have far too many choices to come up with demands on their own. Corporations create the supply by controlling the means of production, and they also create the demand by controlling the advertising. In effect, big business has both sides of this equation. Dollar for dollar, the kind of awareness campaign that might actually change people's consumer habits cannot possibly compete with the kind of money that can be put behind advertising for a big corporation. The belief that we are voting with our money gives the consumer a sense of satisfaction, and it also gives the corporation insight into a new, powerful advertising strategy. These campaigns actually help inform big business of the image that the customers want to see. So they'll present that image and they'll keep their customers. They won't change their policies and strategies, but they'll show the people what they want to see. Child labor in the third world, factory farming, and a systematic dismantling of the rights of the working class will not end because a few of us stop buying products from particular businesses. They will end when government steps up and does its job, not just by making it illegal to do business in this way, but by aggressively pursuing the prosecution, indictment, and incarceration of the people who choose to do business this way. The idea that buying products from a corporation makes the consumer culpable for its crimes is a convenient one from the politician's point of view. The consumer doesn't have the power to change or enforce legislation, but the politician does. They don't want to exercise that power, though, because it would cost them. Big time. The myth of consumer culpability does get one thing right. It is up to us, not to change our consumer habits per se, but to challenge the political climate that turns a blind eye towards cruelty and abuse so as to allow corporations to walk away with massive profits for its primary shareholders. We are not going to address these kind of systematic injustices by shopping smart. We will address them in the halls of government, or not at all. Big business would love to have you believe that the responsibility for their policies lies with their customers, and that anyone who suggests regulation of business is some kind of Bolshevik boogeyman. But ask yourself, if I believe this story, who gains? It comes down to this. Democracy runs on cash. Elected officials need the support of big business to mount their campaigns, which is exactly why big business gets political support in return. Electoral reform is the first logical step to ending the corporate stranglehold on our political system. Until we limit the money that can be spent on political campaigns, our politicians will remain beholden to big corporations. To have a government that works in support of the people instead of the plutocracy, we will have to radically change the way that we approach democracy.